Hello, everybody. Malik here, our CEO of MTECH Industries. I'm going to be doing some experiments in my solar shed that's completely isolated from electrical mains. As you can see, I've strung up an antenna here. The wire goes. It's a wire that's isolated from ground. It's just an antenna wire, and it goes to another PVC pipe. So it's a completely insulated wire. It's not contacting the ground in any way. And for those who don't know, this is my solar shed, completely off-grid. See if I can stand on this old wood stove and show you the solar panels on the roof of the shed. I have quite a few of them. Hopefully you can see all that. I got them off like eBay and from friends that do the work, all that stuff. I have a lot more solar power than I'm using in the shed. And basically I have electricity in here anytime there's sunlight with a grid tie inverter over there. And basically what I got going on in here is I know it's really messy. It's really messy. I collect a lot of scrap junk and wiring from companies and friends and whatnot. It's kind of a storage shed as well. Metal bars for experiments. There's a whole ground system there all tied together. DC power supply. But anyway, what I got going on that I wanted to show is, and my nose is so stuffy and I can barely catch my breath. I have bad allergies. Anyway, I got my Tesla coil out here, the magnifying transmitter. It's just the ball. And that antenna, I was reading some of the stuff about Moray in the Moray Valve. So I have my antenna coming in. And my antenna connects to this receiver that's completely wireless. So the antenna is being electrically stimulated wirelessly by the Tesla coil, or the magnifying transmitter. And as you see, this is dead. I can touch this to anything and it won't light. It's completely dead. I have these receivers so sensitive they can also light without any input. And it's best to show these effects at night. As you see, it's not lighting. I'll touch it too, this graphite crucible. I used to be involved with metal work. I still kind of am, just don't have the time. And as you see, this wireless receiver is so sensitive to picking up ambient power, it lights up just when touching graphite. If you can see that. Lights up just from touching graphite. So when you deal with radiant energy or radiant energy devices, if you have a transmitter that's kicking out pulse DC, a charge will build up on certain materials, and more so on different materials. So you can see that that's lit up. It's literally just touching a graphite crucible, a big one. Still lit up. I have no mains in this shed. This is an off-grid solar shed. There is no mains in here other than the 60 hertz we artificially generate from a grid tie inverter. There is no mains here. We're pretty far away from the main farmhouse on our 8-acre stretch of property here for these experiments. It is best to conduct these experiments away from mains. As you can see, that is lit. So the material itself acts as a cosmic energy collector, which I've demonstrated. And anyway, I just have my DC power supply here plugged in, which goes all the way to the inverter, the grid tie inverter. I really just have LED lights in here. It's a 1300 watt grid tie inverter. Or it's a 1300 watt inverter. And it turns the solar energy directly into power that I can use right here in the shed. And it only works during the day. Because at night, I won't have power in here unless I hook up the batteries to it. It's a grid tie inverter and just a regular inverter. It's got two functions in one. So anyway, I will turn this on. And those who don't know, this Tesla coil that's built almost fully correctly can run. It all depends on the transistor you use. I have much better transistors planned that I'm going to use. Probably going to upgrade to pure germanium transistors, a 300 watt one, so that'll be crazy. Anyway, as you can see, our antenna wire here, I know everything is so messy because this is my storage shed. The antenna wire comes in this, look at this is coming right off the antenna. And when I do this effect, it doesn't place a load on the DC supply, which is interesting. So that's how much power the transmitter is consuming. I'm calling this the Radient energy transmitter. So I'll hook that up. And as you see, it's completely wireless. I can take it, move it anywhere I want. There's nothing hidden in it anywhere. I have people calling me that I'm faking things. Well, I more than welcome you to build it or come to my place and I can show you for a fact nothing is faked. And I have people around the world who replicated my technology and they're part of the research group and they undoubtedly proved over unity. And no one uses their Tesla coil the right way. A Tesla coil is not a giant spark machine. It's a radiant energy pump. And what it does is it stimulates the earth to run your loads. And I can touch this to the dirt and it will light up. As you can see, straight to the dirt and we're lit. If you don't think the earth is running the load, you're just brain dead at this point. I'm literally touching this to the earth. In my shed. And like I said, when you connect a wireless receiver to an earth ground or an antenna or a combination of both, your radiant energy effects get much brighter. And we're not even drawing that much power. And like I said, it loves graphite. Look at that. Loves graphite. I'll move my graphite over here. And look at that. What other device in the world that you know of can do this and produce such effects? It's the material. There's a charge being accumulated on the material from the radiant energy. This is literally real radiant energy research. It seems to love iron. It seems to love carbon. Here's just a ground rod. And again, I'm doing these tests away from mains. I have no electrical grid mains in here, except for the artificial mains we generate from the solar panels to run our DC supply, which runs the Tesla coil. And honestly, if I wanted, I could have taken the tap off my DC solar panels and run my transmitter that way, because the transmitter runs on DC. But I wouldn't have fine control over it like I can with this, the voltage and the current. And it would probably blow the transmitter. And anyway, I'll just touch this to my elaborate ground system and look how bright that gets. There's more of the radiant energy effect. this receiver coil is very interesting. This receiver coil will light when the transmitter is completely off. When it's, I showed that in my other videos, when it's a completely pitch black night and clear, and you have a little mini antenna wire, maybe like 3 feet long, coming off of this, it'll light. And it lights from the radiant energy that comes off the stars. So I've been reading a lot into Thomas Henry Moray's work, getting a lot of ideas, and I believe advanced germanium components are the key. All of our technology here uses non-linear electrical components with negative resistance. So let me repeat that. We're using non-linear electrical components with negative resistance, and we have an open system. So what does that mean? It means we're using a small amount of energy to pump and move larger amounts of energy from the Earth. And we can get massive overunity. But calling it overunity is kind of incorrect. It's like you throwing a match into a pile of gasoline. You're just putting in a little bit of effort to make that kick, that DC switching kick, and you get a lot of juice out. And this output, I'm doing tests in the shed. I showed it in my other videos. If I wanted to, I could run a 500 watt load off of that L1 through a special rectifier I have, and DC and RF to DC circuitry, which I showed in my older videos. This is just junk. Back in the day, I was messing with huge coils. I honestly had no clue what I was doing. Stuff was unrefined, but the radiant energy is just everywhere, and it even lights up on this coil. Look at that. I'll even move this coil. This is literally just a big pancake coil. Middle of the ground. Check this shit out. It's dimly lit. So figure that out. It loves the Earth. I'm kind of in view of the sun here. You can't see it that good. I'm going to go into here where it's dark. Not lit now. I bet you I can get this coil to light, because this coil for some reason is highly sensitive. So I'll take my antenna wire, I'll get the coil. I bet you I can get this coil to light. Ooh, it wants. Ooh, yeah, it's lit. It's lit. Coil is lit. Breakthrough technologies. Not only are we demonstrating we can transmit over unity through the Earth, and we can harvest over unity through the Earth from DC switching. Those are highly impressive effects. Tuning the inductance of the coil is what created the light to light up, the effect. We're able to manifest the signal and light the load. Connect to this ground. We'll see what happens now. It's even brighter. Loves the Earth. It loves the Earth. Look at that. I'll bring it close to this crucible and look. Now the other thing I will demonstrate is I will shut my transmitter off, and just so there can be no doubt of the integrity of the test, I'll unplug part of the input to the transmitter. So we disconnected the positive on that side. I will now disconnect the negative on this side. As you can see, transmitter is not on. We're consuming no power in the shed. We have no power in this shed. We are not using power in this shed at the moment. And here's just my coil and my ground rod. And this coil is so sensitive, it should get lit. It should light by itself. As you can see, it is lit by itself from a ground rod. I'm going to show where it's darker, maybe you can see it better. But that light is dimly lit. If I take my hand away, you can see it. Zoom right in on it. It is dimly lit. You know what? I bet it will light up even more if I connect the ground to my extremely good grounding system over here. I'm just going to completely disconnect the... So I've completely disconnected the transmitter. He ain't connected anymore. And I bet you if I connect to my really good ground system here, which is like 20 metal rods in the ground, this guy will light. It's lit. Hopefully you can see that. It is dimly lit. And if you tap it, it'll light too, which is interesting. Oop, there we go, it's lighting. You can see that. The energy seems to come in pulses when it lights from the earth. And if I get it tuned just right, it will stay permanently lit. And these tests are best shown at night. Sometimes you can see it lighting up. Right there. There it is. If I do a tapping motion, it lights. Like, because I'm stimulating it. That's very interesting. Some ground spots are more sensitive than others. I imagine if you put a ground system on a ley line, it will probably light up very well. For some reason, ground rods in this area give out more power than the ground rods over there. I'm not sure why that is. Must be a geological arrangement to it. But anyway, I connected to my one ground rod that's in this spot, and it's dimly lit. As you can see, dimly lit. See it? Dimly lit. Now anyway, I'll plug my, actually I'm kind of curious. If I connect to the charcoal crucible, what happens? I think that's lit just from the crucible. Get it tuned. Yeah, it's lit from the crucible very dimly. Yep, permanently lit, very dim. Pulsing. It's receiving a signal. So I'm probably going to get into graphite for other materials to mess with. My hand's completely still. I'm not moving anything. And we're receiving a signal. It's pulsing. So, anyway, I'll plug the transmitter back in and turn it on. And I have so much shit in here, it's not even funny. Make sure I don't get this wrong. Negative. Connected. Come on. Positive. Feel how hot you got. He's not even warm. Grab my other wire. I'll connect it. Turn it on. We are transmitting again. We are active. And eventually I will probably clean out this shed completely, build a structure, or just out of wire, at a multiple that's a frequency of the transmitter, and there'll be a huge ring antenna. And I want to see just how crazy I can maximize the radiant energy effect. Pure radiant energy, folks, from the earth. We're just using our magnifying, transmitting Tesla coil to stimulate it. I noticed the real color of radiant energy seems to be a deep violet or deep purple. It's never yellow or any other, or green. It's like a deep purple color. See, the radiant energy is all in the antenna. And this setup isn't even optimized for the antenna. So anyway, see if our coil over here is lit. It should be, because it loves graphite. Okay, it lights when I touch the graphite. So I'm wondering what happens if I move these guys and I get the graphite in contact with the earth. What happens? It lights. But you can't see it that it's that bright because the sun is shining right in through the shed here. But it's lit. It's actually lit pretty bright. I'll now do an experiment. I will take my graphite. I'll go further away. I'll see if I can receive the signal under the antenna. I'll put my graphite in the snow. And I'll see if we can receive. And I think we are. I think we're lit. I can't tell because it's so bright out here. And I can't do the tests at night unless I bring my solar generator in here, because the shed has no power at night. But I think that's lit. I honestly cannot tell. So we're gonna have to abandon the outside test. The sun is setting right on us, and it's just too bright out here. Permanently lit now. See where it gets the brightest. This coil is the most sensitive I built so far. Okay. It's lit right here in this corner. Still lit. Touch it to the graphite. A little brighter. It's the length of wire that's playing a role. Likes that. It likes metal. It loves metal. That is very bright. Damn. So as you see, that's permanently lit. Very bright. All I did was connect it to this old exhaust part. And notice when I touch the exhaust part, it gets even brighter. So that's how that goes. I'll shut the transmitter off. Off. And the light is out unless I bring my hand near the coil, because this coil is so sensitive. It's receiving ambient RF energy, probably from the stars or the universe. Permanently lit right there. Very faintly permanently lit. Pulsing. Just holding my hand on it. We'll do another walk around to the shed. That's where all the solar panels come in. Not the correct wire. That's where my outlets come into the shed. This is junk. Completely off-grid solar shed. That was a ground wire experiment. I don't even use that wire anymore. I gotta get rid of it. And sometimes this will pulse too. Very bright. I don't know if it's like weather that causes it to pulse bright, or if it's activity in the earth. Okay, zoomed in really bright. So you can see it pulsing. Occasionally it'll pulse. It's doing it now. So there's radiant energy coming in. You can see it doing it. Anyway, I think this video's gone on long enough. You get the point. If I turn it on and I max it to full power, the effects will get even greater. The radiant energy effects are now even more extreme. Eventually, the radiant energy effects themselves will become over unity just from putting a full bridge rectifier on a plane of metal and the earth. Your AC side would go to the plane of metal and the earth. And I believe the radiant energy effects will become over unity in themselves once I run this at maybe 200 or 300 volts DC at 1/4 of an amp with more refined circuitry and a big germanium transistor. 200 or 300 watt, and just anything accumulates the radiant energy. Concrete, bricks, metal, iron, dead battery terminal, even somehow it accumulates in that. Crystalline salt, it loves carbon. Like look how bright that is on carbon. That is fucking insane. Look at that. This is literally a carbon mold. This is just a carbon mold when I messed with metal melting. It's either graphite or carbon. And look how bright this gets from the energy accumulated on it. That's unheard of. I'm probably going with carbon. Look at that. These are my detectors of the utmost sensitivity. Oh, like that. I brought the carbon near the coil and look how bright it gets. Oh yeah, look at that. That's very interesting. Can you see that effect? The carbon is accumulating a lot of power. It's accumulating a lot of radiant energy. You know, what I think is occurring here is the transmitter's on. and somehow it's doing something to the radiant energy that's all around us at all times, and it's either stimulating it or it's activating it somehow, but either way, we can do impressive things here. If I move this further away, we don't affect that light, and we can still run this light. Very bright. I want to get both those in frame. There we go. They're both in frame. Now both are being run without being affected. It's just a block of carbon. And there's like an old chunk of metal in there I melted. I think it was aluminum. Anyway, figure that out. The type of technology I'm demonstrating here will make any physicist cry. This technology is of the utmost simplicity in nature. It has no moving parts. The moving parts are the magnetic fields, and it can do pretty damn impressive things. And I already more than demonstrated the over-unity effect in my past videos. I could just do this stuff all day, it's so fun. Even my hammer, it'll probably light. Yeah, it lights on the hammer, because it's iron. So in theory, I could have just separate ground connection, light goes to a hammer or a piece of metal. Separate ground connection, light, carbon. It would be carbon plates. It would go ground connection, light, carbon. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do ground connection, bridge rectifier, carbon. Ground connection, bridge rectifier, carbon. And I'm going to keep repeating that. And I'm going to combine the output of all my bridge rectifiers in parallel, and I should get retarded amounts of over unity. So we made an energy collector here. And the exotic diodes are the key to getting it working. No power will be manifest in the system without the exotic RF diodes. There's something occurring in the diodes too that help it. And I'm just curious if I turn this up even higher. I'm just going to move this a little further away. So I'm going to turn it up on higher power levels. Just want to blow my transistor. That's much brighter. That's much brighter. See what I mean? It's voltage driven, not current driven. The radiant energy effect. The higher the voltage we make the switching occur at, the more power we can accumulate in foreign bodies. Look at that. That is very bright. And I'm really fucking far away. I am probably 20 feet away. Very bright. And I can't run it for too long at that high of a power setting with that transistor. Well, I can, it just has to be. The heatsink has to be in a little bowl of water. Loves the bench vise because that's pure iron. Probably gonna love down here. Yep. Probably gonna love my scrap components. Yep. My metal ball in my toolbox. Explain that effect. It's lighting up on the metal ball in my toolbox. And I know some people are probably getting pissed off. Like, this is a 40-minute video or 50-minute video on him just walking around, lighting a little light in his shed, in his toolbox. I'm getting annoyed. Well, that's just the science of the video. Play it on like 1.5 times speed or something. A battery terminal? How weird is that? I'm demonstrating everyone all the effects. It's everywhere. Literally everywhere. My ladder. Not really present on the ladder. That's really interesting. It's not present on the ladder? Oh no, it is. There's just a coating on the ladder. Present on here. What if I connect to this connection? Present on that. What isn't it present on? In theory, all of these can independently run loads. Any piece of metal or stray piece of wire can run your load between earth ground. Is that even lit? Could have sworn that lit. Yeah, that's lighting. Look at that. And that's just on a metal screw. How weird is that? It lights sometimes. Iron pipe in the ground. Nothing. Might be too small. What else can I hold this to? Box of screws. Nothing. Not lit. Big chunk of wire. Not really. I don't want to run this at 60 volts for too long. Turn it back down to 40. We'll do 45. I built it. I know what it can handle with the parts that's in it. So, gonna get much bigger parts and upgrade it. Figured I'd just show that. Whoa, that is bright. Loves that metal shelf. What happens if I connect this coil now to the metal shelf? Didn't get that bright. That's interesting. It got dimmer. Okay. See how it gets bright when I tune the inductor? I figured it out. You need to have this, if this was grounded and I brought this near it, it'll get bright. So if I ground that, if I get a ground wire connected to that, I'm going to do that. And some people probably hate me. This video is going on too long. Yeah, well, that's science. Consider it kind of like the video diaries. Okay. So I now connected that wire to my ground. I'll connect it to you. And yep, my theory was correct. It lights brighter. Same way you tune a Tesla style crystal radio. You can see that. Oh yeah, it's very bright. Very bright. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Disconnect it from the metal shelf. What if I also go to the earth ground again? It's dim. Loves an isolated metal body. Extremely bright now. And the proper way to probably do that would be to have a carbon or graphite tube that could slide up and down over the coil. And the outside of the carbon graphite tube would be earth grounded. Gonna feel how hot the system is, and depending on how hot it is, I'm gonna crank it up more. can handle going up a little more. Light is even brighter. Look at that. That is bright. Ooh, I lost my connection. Look at that. Literally the earth ground. Loves that spot for some reason. And there we go. So, you've seen it yourself. This is an isolated shed from mains. There's no mains in here. I'm going to give the system a break, and it can stay on forever. I'm pushing that transistor pretty hard. So anyway, that's all I wanted to show. For the skeptics, I would say read some ancient electrical engineering books. Better yet, you don't even have to read them. You can listen to them on Audible. Read some by... Wow, my brain is like dead at this point because of allergies. But Charles Steinmetz wrote a lot of them. The Theory of Waves, Impulses, and Something by Steinmetz. That's a good book. The Sea of Energy in Which the Earth Floats is a good book. The Paraphrasium, that's a good book on Audible. Really will blow your mind on how to think properly and develop different methodologies for spontaneous thought synthesis to figure things out in a retroductive manner. All those old books I don't want you to know. Just listen to them on Audible. It's almost like a cheat code. And this stuff I demonstrated is completely simple in nature. And it works ridiculously well. And I'm just scratching the surface of what it can do. So, thanks again to all those who support me. And stay creative.